an amazing instrument. It has developed into an incredible voice in today's music. So many types of guitars, so many styles of playing, all sorts of gear. How does one make their voice be heard as a guitarist? My name is Jeff Floro, and welcome to All About Guitar, where we talk tone, we talk technique, we talk gear. Where we discover how we can become better musicians in a world of constantly changing technologies. Where we take a good look at everything guitar, and sometimes not exactly guitar, but just as important, so we can be more successful as a musician in today's music scene. So sit back and relax, and let's explore all about guitar. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to All About Guitar. We have a great show for you tonight. And I'm hearing, is that me?
I'm turning that off because that's too many. It's delayed.
Oh, okay. No. Sure, yeah, we're setting up the Facebook Live, and I just want to let you know, if you're listening, if you go to the LA Talk Radio Facebook page, you can click on the live stream so you can see what we're doing, because Rob's brought some really beautiful guitars here, and you're going to take a look at them. Also, I shared it on the All About Guitar page, and also on my personal page, and I think, Rob, you already got yours on yours and on the Music Mystique. So anyway, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff.
Well overdue, but I'm glad it's, this week I was working on preparing for the show, and we're going to talk about Rob's new album, Trouble Again, and it's a great album. There's some really cool things that he's doing, and the different guitars and tones that he gets are just incredible. Now, while we're talking, I'm going to flash the cover of the album. It's not out yet, right?
It's not out yet, no.
When is it going to be released?
I should be receiving the CDs in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, so
and the vinyl to follow probably in 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. So
vinyl.
We're getting a sneak
Get your turntables out.
Yeah, indeed.
And this album, really, there's a lot of different styles and techniques that he's using, and gobs and gobs of guitars on it. So it's really, really cool. But before we start playing some of the clips, and I have a bunch, let's talk a little bit about the concept behind the album, what you were going for, and I just found out too there's a second album that's all acoustic. So tell us about that.
Sure. I don't know that I began writing the songs for this album with anything in mind, other than I'm just going to write a lot of songs and see what sticks and what doesn't stick. And I like to think that this particular record of the records I've released has the most cohesion. It's the most song by song. It's not. I don't think it's stylistically schizophrenic, but I think it all kind of touches on my various influences, but also retains kind of a cohesion as a whole. And it was a selection process. I did have more than 10. The album's a 10-song album, but I had probably twice as many songs that I weeded through. And something also that was different about making this record, whereas in the past, the other albums I've recorded, I'd write a song, then I'd record a song, and then I'd write a song, then I'd record the song. These all were written, I think, from start to finish before I ever laid a note, on tape. So when it came to making the record, I had all the songs, and it perhaps that speaks to the cohesion of the arrangements and the the relation between the songs together.
It definitely has it's definitely cohesive, and it sounds like you said. Though it's interesting because he plays with a lot of different styles, even though the album is, in general, the overall sound of the album is consistent. There's a lot of little things that he throws in and stuff that he's doing that's kind of interesting. And I noticed we were talking a little bit before. There's some really interesting synth stuff.
Yeah.
And it gave me a lot of more of a nostalgic thing because you're doing some really cool stuff. We're going to play a clip later where he has this R&B feel, and it just reminds me of the old days.
Yeah.
It's a really cool and again the tone of the guitars. There's definitely a whole different sound compared to the other albums that you had that we looked at the first time you were over here.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think that each of the songs represents, I guess, a certain, in terms of style, just it's an honest representation of my influences. There's no, there's really and truly and honestly from the heart, there's no pretension in this record, and at this point, I'm too old to even think or worry about pretension. It's like I'm not trying to be something or trying to do something. I do fit within a certain niche of music, but I'm not trying to make a song for somebody over here that might like it, or maybe this guy likes it, or maybe radio's going to want to like this. It just didn't happen that way.
Just made it for yourself.
Right, Lauri.
Yeah. Well,
Hi,
there's
Lauri.
there's a lot more layer. The thing I notice is the arrangements and the layers. There's a lot of stuff and all those had to be a lot of tracks because but you're getting that's a trick to mix.
Yeah, I can talk about that too. I ran into a few DAE errors for those people who do Pro Tools. I don't even know what that means. I just when that thing comes up, I just click it and it's gone. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I mix and record exclusively with the cans. So because I think I grew up listening to music on headphones, and I'm a very microscopic listener, whether that comes from being a jazz musician as well as being whatever. I like to hear all the details, and I will obsess on the littlest thing that you may not even notice if you listen to the record. I may have obsessed for hours over that.
Are you? Let me ask you something
Yeah.
in terms of your mixing, since you're talking about that. When you mix in headphones, the difference I've seen with mixing from headphones and speakers is I tend not to go as wide with panning and stuff with the headphones instead of the speakers, because if you pan hard left and right, it's like right here,
Right.
on each ear.
Well, yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I'm slightly more deaf in this ear than I am in this ear. My right ear, I don't know, whatever. And sometimes I just compensate for that lack of hearing in the one ear, and I just turn up that side a little more. So something might be off balance. That said, I will always reference, once I'm done mixing in the headphones, I will reference on the speakers as well, just to make sure things are sitting where they're supposed to, because for many years I've struggled with finding and fighting with low-end EQ and learning about how to deal with that, and how do you, learning about subtractive EQ versus, additive EQ, if that's what you call it. I don't know.
Well, that must have been interesting because you're recording the vinyl. A lot of people that, since they're going digital, they don't have to worry about the low end, but you do have to worry. It's a whole other game, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't, making the record, I wasn't thinking about vinyl, in per
Right.
se. But it's going to be on vinyl, so yeah, I guess.
So who ended up mastering the vinyl?
The same guy that mastered he did everything. His name is Stephen Marsh. He's a great guy. He's up in the Hollywood Hills, a place called Marsh Mastering, and I've always taken my stuff to him, and he's done an impeccable job, and he cares about it. He takes the time to make things right.
Yeah.
And it's something you gotta put that extra expense out there and do the mastering right. You can't just do it at home yourself.
It can make or break the
It
record.
sure can, yeah.
It's vital. It
It really is.
It's almost as important as mixing it.
It's fascinating, and I don't quite completely understand the process, but I love to hear, how'd you take the vocals out? How'd you do that? It's all EQ, and it's all.
It's definitely an important step.
Yeah, but I mean, I've seen records, or I've talked to mastering engineers where they record it all around the world at different studios, and it all sounds different, and they'll make it all sound consistent.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Exactly.
There's an art to that, and it's a very
Yeah.
A really good mastering engineer can make or break a record. It can be great
Absolutely.
songs, if it's mastered bad.
Yeah, well, he was talking about when I last saw him a couple weeks ago, about the trend was to basically make that wavelength as wide as possible, to make it as loud as possible. Everybody wants their stuff to be loud, and he's like, that's a trend, it's a fad, it's going to go away. Why are you doing that? You're ruining the whole dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's something pretty obvious. I think if you hear, what a wavelength that's completely slammed from top to bottom versus one with space and whatever, you want that in music. That's
Space, yeah.
it's
Well, that's the
space.
thing, yeah.
You don't get that in today's music, you crazy kids.
Well, a lot of the stuff that's even in streaming, through the internet, like your Pandoras and Spotify's, they're compressed, and so people are used to that because they're listening through a little speaker, or they might be listening on a small speaker system in the office or something.
Sure.
So you need the compression helps, so it's at a comfortable level.
Sure.
'Cause, if you have a lot of dynamics, all of a sudden it'll get quiet. You turn it up and it blasts.
Exactly.
Especially at work, that's not fun. But I just want to mention one thing though, and I'm going to play a cut in a second.
Sure.
One thing I noticed, it wasn't very bass heavy, but I have to say the bass lines, much more bass lines than I noticed from some of the other songs from the past, and very melodic.
Oh, thank
That
you.
means you got better at playing bass.
Perhaps that was it.
So let me.
Played everything on it, right?
I did.
Yeah, no,
I did.
I had a feeling because it all fit perfect.
Thanks.
And then all the stuff, but I mean, he's actually doing some really cool
Oh, thanks.
things for bass. I mean,
Nice.
for playing bass, it's an interesting. So I'm going to play the opening cut.
Sure.
And this is called Passenger. And I'm
Passenger
gonna play
Seat.
a clip for this, and now let me explain too that these songs are songs, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of vocals in them.
It's a lot of
So
vocals.
I'm pulling just parts to kind of show the guitar part. So
Sure.
I'm severely editing. So remember,
away.
there's much more to the album than this.
There you go.
But here's Passenger.
Seat.
We got forever tonight, no need to hurry home. Yeah, we got forever tonight, no need to hurry home. No need to hurry home. We got forever tonight, we got forever no need to hurry home. Ain't gonna hurry home. Windows down, minds on freeze. Don't wanna run. Won't you meet me in the passenger seat? Yeah, you can meet me in the passenger seat. Right on time. Life is sweet.
There's a good example of some of the cool little bass riffs that he was doing in there. But those guitars
Thanks.
are great. You got to tell me what you were using on that.
Wow, I gotta think now. Well, I can tell you generally what I used throughout the whole album, whether it was specifically that one. Listening, I think what it was. Okay, let me explain my different rigs I have. So I have two separate live cabinets that are permanently mic'd. One is an orange 212 speaker closed back speaker thing. I built like these boxes that contain the speakers themselves with the mics, so that I can blast them at all hours, without anybody screaming too much. And I believe that Passenger Seat, those were also recorded through an orange AD30 into that cabinet. Sorry, but for other songs and I'm not quite sure which specifically. I have a 68 Vibro Champ that I run into a 12-inch. I think it's a greenback speaker. It's an open back speaker that's also boxed and enclosed and permanently mic'd. And I kind of traded between the 68 Vibro Champ and a 66 Princeton. And then for most of the lead guitar parts, I have a Vox. A Vox AC-15 I used also. I have a Vox Tone Lab, which is a little in the box kind of, sort of like a pod or whatever it is. And I used that a lot for lead guitar, because I can tweak certain frequencies to really bring the guitar out and complement the other guitars without being buried or lost.
Did you use the Vox, the AC-15, for like the sparkle type sounds? Because you get a lot of bright, clean or semi-clean.
Probably not. I think I used the AC-15 for dirt.
For dirt?
Yeah. I want to say that the Princeton I used more for clean and sparkly.
Oh, okay.
Either that or I went directly into the board.
Oh, okay. Because when we'll go into a little bit more of some of the other songs.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to play another clip, which I think is both electric and acoustic guitars, and then we can talk a little bit about the challenges in mixing.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting to get I think this is a 12-string. I might be wrong. The clip is Dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And but to get those guitars to hear them, because you're playing a dirty sound too in there. Oh, one real quick question on Passenger Seat.
Yeah.
That type of Stones type of rhythm.
Yeah.
What was that? Is that a Telly?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that was my Blue Telly. It's just an American standard from the late 90s that I slapped a Bigsby on, and just been kind of like my main gigging instrument, and it's just there, so I grabbed it, and that was that.
It looks pretty on stage.
Yeah, that's a nice
that
guitar.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful guitar. But I
Nice.
mean, any other guitars, any other electrics that you were using on that, or?
Probably the three that I usually use, that Telly. I have a Butterscotch Telly, a 52 reissue that I use a bit, and then I have two Stratocasters. One's a 76 Strat, and then one's a 79. And I record most basic guitars with those, with the Fender guitars, just because, you don't have the mush of a humbucker. It just breathes more. I don't know what it is. The Fenders for rhythm guitars, especially when they're stacked like that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of layers in there. You're using a lot of tracks on that.
Yeah.
All right, let's play Dreaming. And this is an edit, so I kind of pulled in. There's a lot. This song's a longer song, but I think you'll get an idea of some of the layering. It's really nice what he's doing here. So here's Dreaming.
She gave herself to compromise for what she thought completeness of life meant. Standing in the shower stall, the water's cold. The chapter read, the verse complete, quietly revealing the story. Wasn't where she wanted to be, after all. Hold it on. Hold it on. Turn the key, the tires roll. They burn like wasted years down the driveway. Bitter like the tears about to fall. Table set that didn't call. The frequency of voices to silence. Wonder how she'll ever survive at all.
So you get that's interesting because in that second verse or whatever, you're playing open chords, or you're strumming. You're not muting the guitar, the electric guitar, but you can still hear that wasn't a I was asking him when we were playing the clip, was that a 12-string or not, but it wasn't.
No, not in the intro. That was just acoustic and electric together.
Okay,
So,
but I mean, it's interesting because you can hear the two parts.
Well, that makes 12 strings.
That does make 12 strings. You're right. Yeah, you're right. The only part that is actual as 12 string is that.
Oh, there
that
is
part.
one.
That's electric 12, and that's in the second verse. That's just a line though, and then there's a couple more lines of that. Yeah.
Which 12-string did you use?
That's
on?
a Rick 360 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then the What you were saying something about the lead, the little riff that you do when you're singing. There's a guitar riff. Which guitar was that?
Yeah, that's the 12. That's the electric 12.
Oh,
That's the electric 12 that does that.
oh, okay.
But
There was a distorted like a.
I don't even remember what the heck I played. How does that song go? She gave herself to compromise. I want to say it was the telly again.
Was the
you
telly?
know, more than likely the telly. But another interesting layer that I added to this song that I didn't add as much to any of the other tunes. I found this old effect. It's called the space station.
Yes.
You know what it is. It's
Yeah.
that yellow pedal. It's like the whammy Digitech space station. They don't make them anymore, and they go for pretty good money if you look around. It has this wonderful kind of a synthy string swell sound, and when I tracked it, it was slightly. I mean, it was off tuning wise by I don't know what the fraction was. So I had to go back in and manually pitch that part so that it kind of didn't
Oh, wow.
clash with everything else, but it has a dreamy kind of like.
Is that what's doing the like pad behind
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
That's a nice sound.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
That's
a
a
beautiful
guitar,
sound.
right?
That's a guitar, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really good.
It
And
achieved what you were looking for.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
did definitely did
whenever
that.
I play through that thing, I just my eyes tear up. I just it's so pretty and beautiful and like nostalgic and 80s kind of. I don't know what I can't explain it.
yeah, it definitely.
It's got a beautiful
y-
thing
You
that-
can see your influences.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely in it. But what's now on Facebook Live? This is in mono, but I urge you to go and download the show and listen to it in headphones because you can hear what he's doing. There's a lot of space and there's a lot of layers, both front to back and then also from side to side. And he's doing some cool stuff. And in that song, especially when it goes into that second verse, when you hear what he's talking about, the space station thing, it's a nice feel.
It
nice
blooms. It's like a
ambience.
bloom.
Yeah, it's very, 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 very
And if
cool.
you want the record, hey, just go robbonfilio.com. Click.
Yes. And
Then you could hear all of it.
Then you can get all of it.
yeah, there's plenty more, and there's actually some more stuff. He does little fills, and there's little things you'll hear that makes it interesting because you know in the next verse, he throws. Oh, that's cool.
I have OCD and I'm very detail oriented.
And you work late at night, right? I'm sure.
Yes, I do. It's many late hours.
Well, I'm going to play another clip that I really. Well, actually, no. Before I do that, let's talk a little bit about mixing that.
Sure.
And the difficulties, because that wasn't an easy mix. There's a lot of, and we're going to play some other stuff later that's even bigger.
I think when you think of mixing in general, you kind of picture, like a kitchen table with all the different ingredients everywhere, and you got to make something. You got to make a cake or whatever. When I record, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, when I'm recording a song, I'm basically mixing as I'm going along. Mm-hmm. So the drums are laid down. I kind of set a level for that. When I'm laying the guitar on top of the drums or whatever the second element of the creation is, I will balance that out. And then it's just all kind of progressive that way. So that by the time I get to the end of the recording and I feel like I'm done, it's basically mixed already. It's just a matter of tweaking specific little levels here and there. So, mixing as, if you are a mixer, a professional mixer, it's a very interesting, it's an interesting gig because you have to start from scratch, you know what I mean? You got to start with the ingredients laid out but not together versus if you're doing your own thing, you kind of know where it's going to be and where it's going to go and how you want it to be. So I don't know, that's how I mix.
Well, for example, some people, do you EQ as you lay the tracks down, or do you just record them as best you can and EQ later? That's a big thing.
No, well, yeah, I'm glad you said that because if it doesn't sound good going down, I will make it sound good. It has to sound the way I want it to sound.
Okay.
I can't just lay down something and I'll fix it later. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
You know,
so
I
you're already EQing that makes space
Yeah.
for Because with those
Absolutely.
layers, you got to take out certain things. so
Sure.
that-
Sometimes the most interesting parts have to be sacrificed for the greater good. You know, I've done that a lot too. Like, I want to keep that part, but it just doesn't work. Bye.
But I mean, because when you get into, and there's a lot of layers of vocals.
Yeah.
I mean, you've always impressed me with your vocal arrangements. You do all these really cool harmonies
Yeah,
and
big
stuff.
sound. I love it.
Very
And-
big, and that takes up a lot of room.
It does. And aside there, if you want to go to my pledge page or robbonfiglio.com, you can click on my pledge music thing. One of the downloads I'm offering is an a cappella mix of the record, just all the vocals by themselves.
Oh, very cool.
Because I think a lot of a lot
Wow.
of the nuance gets
I'm
kind of
getting
lost.
that.
You got to check it out. It's really cool. I think I'm not tooting my own horn, but
There's an art.
No.
well,
Oh,
there's
no,
an art
it's
to it.
it's yeah.
There's an art to it.
well, here's also a thing. I found what works with my vocals, and it's a very unorthodox setup when I record vocals. I record through an AT4050 mic, which is similar to this. This is what do you say, an AT4035?
Yeah.
So I have an AT4050 that I run, and the compression that I use is a Boss CS3 comp pedal. It's a stomp box pedal. I just go right into that. The mic goes into that, comes out, goes into the board, and I think there's a little bit of the Fairchild 660 I use a lot. And when
That's a plug-in.
it's a plug-in, yeah. I don't have a real one. I wish I did someday. But when I stack my vocals that way, they don't get too thick. They don't get too, like, the frequency, it doesn't go crazy. I can stack, 20 vocals, and it'll still sound okay. It won't be like gook, and perhaps that has to do with the unorthodox way I'm routing it, And so
You found your way.
I found my way, and you know what? It's been that way for so long. I
Yeah.
love it, and
and it's
it
your
works.
sound. I mean, it
It
doesn't
works.
sound like a choir. It just sounds like your
Well,
background vocals.
Right.
And
using that Boss is part of that because that
It is.
colors the sound.
I'm sure
It's not a flat, and I'm not saying that derogatorily. It's
No.
not flat. It has its own unique character.
it does,
to
and for whatever it work. And I've tried other things with my voice. I've tried higher end pieces of gear, and it just doesn't work. Or at least in my ears, it doesn't work. I'm sure somebody else could figure it out, but I guess I got a weird frequency in my voice that.
No, but I mean the kind of vocals that you're doing, where it's so the harmonies and there's so many parts.
Right.
It does work, and it
Yeah.
makes it when you double or triple or how many layers of
Sure.
the voices you're putting on there, it gets that blend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a definite sound to that.
Yeah. There is.
So I have one question that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with guitars,
Sure.
but with mixing.
Yeah.
Is how do you spread the voices out, or do you?
Yeah, I do generally. Generally, and this is just it's a song by song basis, but I'll put the main vocal down, the lead vocal. I might double it, or I might not. In the chorus, I might have the lead vocal in the middle, and I'd have a ghost vocal on the left and the right, far left and right, singing the same thing. So it just kind of like opens it up. With background vocals, I always pan hard left, right, and double. So
Okay.
for each stack in the harmony, it's hard left, hard right, and then
But those ghost vocals, do you put them in the cave, in the back, in the reverb?
sometimes,
or you,
sometimes, and sometimes I don't do it at all. But it depends on whatever the chorus. It just makes when the chorus comes around, it makes it bigger. It just makes it bigger, and you can't quite. Maybe it's not immediately perceptible as to why it's bigger, but it is because there's
Right.
3 vocals actually singing lead.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
one thing I learned in some of the stuff that I've done where I've layered guitars, I'd record 2 acoustic guitars and pan them hard left and right.
Yeah.
And what I found is you don't have to turn them up as much, but it brings the part out.
Sure.
So it's a subtle thing, but you could, with the 2 guitars on each side, rather if you had one guitar, you got to crank it up and then figure out where you want to place it.
Yeah.
With the 2, it's less. You don't have to put in it.
You don't,
It's
but
not as demanding on the range.
true. But depending on your arrangement, if you have 2 acoustic guitars hard left and right, and then you just mute one out and put one in the center, it's a whole different thing.
Right,
It's a
right.
whole different perception of amplitude or whatever amplitude. That's a plug-in.
Yes, that is a plugin.
clever.
But
Clever.
let's take this. This is one of my favorites. This is called "Gone," and we'll talk. I'm just going to play it, and then we'll talk a little bit more because you'll understand once I play it. This brings back a lot of memories to me. So this is "Gone." Take a listen.
Cast away with a heart
That was so cool. And for a minute, I thought Larry Carlton was playing in there. that sound.
You're right, though, Jeff. You guessed it. It was a, Jeff said, "Is that a 335?" Close. You're 10 off, sir. It's a 345.
But what amp? How did you set that up? I'm curious how you got that sound.
That I'm pretty sure I went through the Vox Tone Lab, which is it's the pod, the Vox version of the pod. Like I said, for a lot of lead stuff, I will go into those kind of pod things because they just there's a certain frequency you can dial in to rise above the rest of the stuff.
But it's interesting because you got that sustain that he used to. He used to use an MXR Dynacomp.
What did I? You know what?
And he used to crank a deluxe to get that sound.
Right. Yeah.
That was that sound. I'm like, that's really cool.
I have to go back. It's all the notes are in the session, but once I do it, I forget what I did.
Now the other rhythm guitars, are those Strats or Tellys?
More than likely Telecasters, unless it was the 76 Strat, which is possible. And I ran it through a small stone, so you got that chorusy thing. And I think they were just direct through the small stone into a DI into the board.
Oh, okay. Because it's real glassy. It
gets
that
sound.
Yeah. That was a great great groove in there.
Thanks. I almost didn't put that song on the record too because it was
really.
I wasn't sure, and then I was happy. I was happy how it came out.
No, at the very end too, you hear it. He does that little synth break.
I think
that's
that was
so cool.
I don't even know what that was. Was it the K oscillator? one of those synth pad things. Yeah.
Oh, it was a synth pad. There's a lot of like a vintage synth parts in there. Is that what we're using?
That was born out of I bought an old Sequential Circuits Pro 1, they're called.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah, these are from like the late 70s, early 80s. And there's a few around, but a lot of them have just fallen into disrepair and, they're hard to find the parts to, I had this in the shop for months and it cost like, I don't know, $500 to find the little parts to whatever I had to do to fix it. Once it came home, I was like, yes, because this thing has, 4 different oscillators. It's a monophonic keyboard. And it's, it's related to the Prophet Phi, which is the legendary.
Oh yeah,
the Prophet. It's like the baby brother to that. And I just did a lot of the ARP things in it, and just some of those low, all that stuff.
So you're into dialing.
Oh, I love it.
Because Oberheim, I think now not Oberheim. Behringer makes a copy of the Mini Moog. It's a little module, and it's only $400.
Wow.
And
See,
it's
I want to
supposed
get a
to
real one.
Yeah, don't we all?
$4,000 later.
Yeah, but I mean, actually, the reviews have been good. In fact, they've been selling
great.
out. They're hard to get because they sell out so fast. But just a reminder, because that fat sound, of that filter on there is to die for.
It's so great. And I bought a Roland had a keyboard called the J106. Is that what it's called?
Juno 106.
Juno 106. Yeah, and they released the little modules, like the replications of it, and I got the little module, the Juno. It's called the JU06, and it's got that sound. I don't know. That's 1984 Blade Runner synth sound.
Yeah, that was Vangelis used that.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah.
That was his synth.
I used that a lot on a song on here called "Love Over Hurt," and that's all over that song. But I just love that stuff. I love those old synth sounds. I was going to buy an original one, but why? They're.
This is working for you.
This is working. It's cheap. It was a module. It does a little bit more than the original one did, and it's not broken.
Now, how did you sequence that? Is that controlled via MIDI? Did you program it in your?
No, it's a keyboard thing. You can buy a keyboard. You buy the module, but you can also buy the keyboard part. You just plug the module into the keyboard, and I just plugged it into the keyboard and ran 1/4 inch out. And
you just play. So you played those riffs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh no, not that. No,
you're good.
No, God, no, I'm not that good. The cascading thing, it came from, I think it's called a K oscillator. Korg make a chaos pad and then a K oscillator. The chaos pad is kind of like an effects thing. You can run sound through it, and then it's literally a touch pad that's about 6 by 6 inches, and you just slide your finger around. You can make it do little things. Like,
oh, so it changes all of what you have.
Changes the parameter. Yeah, the parameters.
That's cool.
Yeah, you can run the sound through it. You can change a parameter of a delay or a reverb or whatever. That's the chaos pad, but then there's what's called the K oscillator, and it's the same thing, but the pad, it's like patches of like synth sounds.
Because he gets some of the older synths. I don't know if the Juno had it, the arpeggiator.
Right.
You can actually program it to do.
I love that. Yeah, I
And
mean,
it would
I
do
did.
that, but it was similar to that. And then there was some other things that you were doing in some of the other songs where it was called sample and hold, where they used a noise generator to change the filter. So it gets
Sure. Right.
So he's doing all these cool synth things.
And I got to tell you, a lot of these things were afterthoughts. You know, it's like I want to put something here, and I want to use this. I just bought this stupid thing. I want to use it. Okay, that sounds cool. Hey, I'll do that.
Right, but
You
it
know,
kind of
it's
gets
not-
you by surprise. You're like listening to all this stuff, and he's got all these vocals and guitars, and it. I'm like, what was that?
And I think it's true to the vibe of the song too. So it's just kind of cool.
Yeah, no. I mean, this song,
Right.
"Gone," it was
Yeah.
part of that sound.
Right.
But you do it in other stuff. I'm hearing stuff what you're doing, filter sweeps. And
I was
stuff.
gonna call the album ARP.
ARP.
There's a lot of ARPs going
People
on.
don't remember the ARPs. I still have my Odyssey.
ARP.
But no, it's a really cool sound what you're doing
Thanks.
there. Now, well, let's talk about some heavy guitar stuff.
Yeah.
I think this one, and I want to go into, because there's a lot of tone in this one.
Oh.
I want to play. This is an edit. There Goes My Heart. So let's play this clip and let's talk a little bit about what you did in here.
Sure.
Because this is very cool.
There goes my heart again, leading me where my lonely ends and love begins, casting the light of your smile. If only time was meant to last, we'd be forever. Feels like I'm tethered to the past, but I should know better. Last summer we called it love without a name. Well, here we are, full circle, but it's not the same. There goes my heart again, leading me where my lonely ends and love begins, casting the light of your smile. Yeah. There goes my heart again. I long to feel the sunshine. Can't wait till winter gray is done. This heart was always meant to run.
Now, there's a lot of guitars in there.
Probably less than you would think, though.
Well, no, I heard two electrics
Mm-hmm.
left and right, and they're playing different things. And then in the background, it just comes in the tinkle of acoustic, and it's in there.
Acoustic is ghosting throughout the whole song. Yeah.
And then later on, you have the lead, which I want
Right.
to ask you because
Sure.
that's a cool sound. It's like, it sounds like it's doubled. Did you double that, or did you use like a harmonizer type?
No,
of
I
thing?
definitely doubled.
You doubled that.
Yeah, and I want to say that was through the Pod XT. I have all the pods. I got like the original, the kidney bean pod, whatever. Then the Pod XT came out, and then the Pod X3 came out. And I just bought them all, and I'll go to different ones for certain things.
Now, is that flanged or chorus slightly? Because it has a timbre to it. That lead,
part?
That lead.
I don't think so. I'm
It's
not
just
sure.
the doubling. Because I know that
Yeah,
can
it's
get
probably
that
double.
sound.
Yeah. I
But
think
it's
it's just
a-
pure double.
Okay.
Pure double, yeah. I always think when I do it, I'll put down like lines like that are just single note lines, and I always think of like The Man Who Sold the World, like all those early Bowie, Mick Ronson stuff, where he's just playing single lines, and it's so huge though. You're like, that's huge, but it's just a single line, whatever.
Well, when you go into that towards the end of the clip, the low strings.
right, yeah,
That
yeah.
riff. Yeah, that's pretty. But also too, the other guitars. Now, are those the tellies that you're using for the rhythm?
Yeah. Those
And
are
then
Tellys.
what was the acoustic?
My jumbo, my
The
Gibson
jumbo?
I use
'Cause
that
it's
pretty
got-
exclusively.
It cuts right above. It just
Yeah.
gives that little
Yeah,
timbre.
I use
above.
I use the AKG C40 451s.
Mhm.
I use a stereo pair of those, and I always do the X pattern, and I kind of center it somehow. I don't know. I just find the right spot, and I run that through the API 512Cs, the lunchbox thing, you know, as preamps, and then that goes into the board from there. And I don't do a whole lot more. I probably EQ a little bit plug-in wise, but
Yeah,
the
just to
jumbo
get it
just
in
sounds
there.
good. The jumbo,
That
yeah.
thing sounds great.
If I find
he
the
had
right
brought
spot,
that last time. That was
I did.
that
Yeah.
was a beautiful guitar.
Thanks.
But the those okay. So you're using the pod for the lead. The electric guitars are you using amps
Yeah, I'm using
for the
an
rhythm
amp.
guitars.
Uh-huh.
For the rhythm.
And I want to say that was the 68 champ.
68 champ.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're saying there wasn't as many guitars. I know I was hearing 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe.
Maybe you're right. Yeah, it was more
5,
guitar
6.
heavy and less synth heavy.
Well, you go. There's different parts, and that's the thing
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about
Sure.
too. Because like in that first part, you have those 2 guitars going,
Mhm.
and then in the next section, there's 2 guitars, but they sound different.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're switching pickups or you're doing something, or is it a different part? Would you punch in, or did you tend to play the whole thing? Like,
The basic rhythm track I probably played straight through, and the other parts were kind of accentuations.
okay,
So
you-
yeah, that was probably just an extra piece.
because you're going. I mean, I'm hearing a different sound
Yeah.
as it evolves, and when you go into the next section, it is a little bit different.
Right.
So I don't know if it could be you're playing. The way you're
Yeah,
playing.
you know, the Rhodes also opens up there too. So
That's
it
true.
kinda-
That's
there's-
true. It fills it out.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish I had a more clear, concise answer.
No. I mean, I'm just
don't know.
I'm picking your brains.
No,
it's
thank you.
interesting to see the process.
I never get to talk about it. Yeah. No.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I mean, it's
You have to
kind
bring
of
your notes next time.
I
Next
will.
album.
What
you
notes?
bring
he
your
has some notes.
These notes
your-
are upcoming gigs.
Your tech notes of how you were doing stuff along the way.
Oh my God! I write it down and forget it. That's what I do.
Yeah, no, I mean it's really there's a lot of interesting. Well, let me give another example of arrangement. We'll talk about the arrangement because there's a bunch of cool guitar parts in this one. This is called Mr. No One, and I did an edit of it, and there's a lead at the end. So it's got. We got to talk about that just
Sure.
because there's a lead at the end. But anyway, but take a listen, and again, if you're listening to the podcast directly in stereo, listen because there's a lot of stuff happening in this. So this is Mr. No One. Take a listen.
Better take your own advice. Doesn't pay to be so nice. When you live by your own means, will you come clean? Try to leave, but there you stay. Cannot wash these sins away. Careful where your judgment lies. The sun will rise. Hey there, Mr. No One. Your heart is on your sleeve. Don't live your life by what you don't believe. Good morning, sister sunrise. Here by the light of day. Don't ever let your sunshine fade away. Mr. No One. Mr. No
Yeah.
I love the backward feedback.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, no, it's the lead. What
Yeah.
are you using there?
That is identifiably the Vox Tone Lab.
The tone lab with which guitar?
I did most leads on, aside from Gone, which is on the 345, with a Telecaster.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a Tele.
The Tele, yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah, I have in both of my Telecasters, I have the what the heck's it called? I can never remember. The Chopper T, I guess is the pickup, the bridge pickup, and that's the it's a stacked single coil, whatever, stacked. And it's just thicker. It's louder. It's I don't know. It's not. It doesn't have that. There's no noise. I love it. You know, the only thing I don't like about it is it has those rails versus the pins. You know, the things. It doesn't look as cool, but it sounds pretty good.
No, it's more actually the rails more when you bend and stuff. It doesn't.
Right, it doesn't run off the magnetic field.
But the were you using amps for the rhythm guitars? Those.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. That I forgot to say when I run through either the 68 Vibrachamp or the Princeton or the Orange, I always have a pedal in the front that I may or may not use. And for the Fender amps, I use a Boss BD2 that was Keeley modded. I don't know what he did with it. He put some kind of he just broadened the spectrum. Robert Keeley sent it to him. He mods it, send it back. And for the Orange amps, I always use a Rat big box. You know those things, the big ones, the old Rats that just sound ridiculously good. It's just dirty and.
But I love that sound.
Yeah,
and that's it,
it's
right?
real
You're not doing
biting.
any other processing.
No.
Because those chords that you're doing,
Yeah.
they're like tenths. You're getting that.
I'll show
really
you what
cool
that
sound.
is here. It's not on this guitar.
Oh,
goes
Ouch.
through the plate glass window. All right, so Mr. No One. Look at that, I'm already capoed up. This was an open G. I think four or so songs were in open G in this album, and so it's open G capo 2, which would be open A, I guess you could call it. And that's just. And now I put the bass note in.
Hey there, Mr. No One. You set your conscience free. Don't live your life by what you don't believe. Good morning, sister sunrise. Here by the light of day. Don't ever let your sunshine fade away.
Etc.
that's great. Here's a little preview of the acoustic only album.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's like
that-
actually all I've heard. I've heard you do
I know.
so many of
It's
these songs.
interesting.
I've been
It
playing
sounds
these
really
songs.
full.
Thank you. Thanks.
He does
Thank you to
all-
Lauri for all her
Oh.
her singer-songwriter nights. I've
Yeah,
been
he
able
does.
to preview
He
a lot of
comes
the
along
material.
with when I book a date for my
No, and I
songwriter
appreciate that because
showcases.
you know what?
It's great.
It kind of kicked my butt into saying I have to bring new material. So it kind of prompted me to want to continue writing.
Yep.
And I miss, we haven't done it in a couple months, but I miss
Wow.
that
Well,
Well,
constantly.
it's going to be interesting to hear the acoustic album because hearing the studio album with
Yeah.
the cuts we played, you can hear how huge it is. So, and that was pretty full by just you by yourself.
Yeah.
The acoustic album is
You-
just that. It's just
Yeah.
me and
Right.
the guitar, and that's
But
it.
you, I mean, for most of the time since I've known you, you've been playing by yourself when you play the live shows. And then
It's
it was
just
like,
easier.
I want to hear your band.
I know,
you
I do too. I just wish I wish I had the luxury to constantly, rehearse with the band. Perfect. I have great guys that I play with.
You got to bring those synths out. You have to bring those synths out.
I'm scared.
it's
This
just
thing's
too
so
cool.
fragile.
Well, there's going to be a CD release.
There is, yeah, on June 8th at Hotel Cafe.
June
It's
8th.
going to be, I anticipate it being a full band show.
Well, we're almost out of time, and then I want to talk
Sure.
a little bit about the
Oh, then
closing
we should
song.
say shout out to Anne Rinaldi. Woo!
Anne Rinaldi, thank you, Anne, for all. She's my de facto manager, and I appreciate all she's done.
So,
As Lauri as well has been very, very much my cheerleader, and
yes.
I'm in debt to you.
www. Ron Bonfiglio.
No, not Ron.
Rob
Thank you.
Bonfiglio. I can't.
Everybody
read
gets
my-
that wrong. Don't worry.
No, I'm
okay.
trying to read.
Here, let me spell it. ROBBONFIGLIO.com.
Rob Bonfiglio.
It's hard. It's a mouthful.
Rob Bonfiglio. It's hard to say the two together.
Imagine living with that name.
But You were going to mention you have that piece of paper. I want to hear about the gigs where you're playing.
Oh, I just had some. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I don't forget my little gig thing. I'm doing a lot of stuff with Wilson Phillips. I'm their guitar player. We are doing a gig on the 17th of May at the Avalon Theater in Hollywood.
Very cool.
It's for the Heart Foundation or something, with Nancy Wilson of Heart. And we're going to be doing stuff with Nancy Wilson. So
Nice.
I'm losing my mind.
Nice.
Let's just say that we're going to go crazy on something.
I'm crazy. I'm crazy on you.
Let's just say that. Let's just say I've been shedding that. Okay, so and then the 19th of May, we Wilson Phillips will be in Colorado somewhere, I don't know where. And then the 8th of June is my CD release show at Hotel Cafe. The 14th of June, we're doing a show at Bogey's called The Children of the 60s with my good buddy Jeff Allen Ross.
Hey, Jeff, shout out to Jeff Allen Ross. Woo!
He's not listening, but if he was,
I'll make him.
There's my shout
You're
out.
part of the.
We do like all these
podcast.
great songs like Small Faces
Saw 'em
and
last night.
Hollies. And, yeah. Okay, and then the 17th, I'm sorry, yeah. July 15th, Wilson Phillips again in Ojai, wherever that is, somewhere up north. And then July 22nd at Bogey's with John Pratt. Are you there, John? Hi, I love you.
Me too.
And Lauri, of course, is involved.
And July 29th, we've got the next songwriter showcase. At
Ooh,
Genghis
July
Khan.
29th.
Yes.
Is that July 20th? Okay.
So I'm
That's
gonna,
the birthday show, right? That's
right.
Post-birthday show.
So
I was
everybody,
so
I
proficient.
can't recommend enough getting this album. It's a real interesting album. Some great sounds, great tones, and
Thanks, Jeff.
great styles.
Thanks.
And this last clip really, I'm going to play "Hey Blue," and it's got kind of a Who feel.
Yes,
to
it
me.
sure does.
So, anything you want to say in terms of the guitars or anything where you?
This was pretty simple because there wasn't a whole lot of guitar. I was listening to a lot of Who's Next. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, so
It's an homage to my
Right.
favorite album.
And you
Any-
guys are going to have to get the album to hear Trouble Again, the title track.
Oh, the trouble. Yeah.
yes, I didn't get a
Yeah.
chance to play that, but
There's
it's
a lot of
real-
good songs. I swear to God, they're good. Buy it.
So this is "Hey Blue." Everybody, thank you, right? And Rob, thank
Jeff,
you so
thank you.
much. And
Thank you,
I'm
as always.
looking forward to have you back again.
Thank you, sir.
There's never
Thank you.
enough. And Lauri, of
And
course.
Lauri Reimer, of course, is the
Yes,
best.
thank you. So here
Love you guys.
here's "Hey Blue," and everybody have a great week. We'll be back next week.
Reach out, should the words not come to you, I'll be there to see you through. I'll be there to see you through. Hey Blue, what you gonna do? Stand tall and let your spirit shine through. Shine through. Hey Blue, what you need is to live for the love that's all around you. Yeah, you. 'Cause when it's over, it's over. All may win and love may fall apart. And when it's over, it's over. So keep that sparkle in your smile and hang on to that beauty in your heart. Hey Blue, hey Don't believe it's over. Believe it's over.